Hello, fellow pitch people. Today I want to talk to you about pitch gating and why if you're not doing it, you're costing yourself time and money. So what is pitch gating? Pitch gating is a term I like to use that describes the staging of your pitch materials to match the phases of your sales cycle. For example, when you're emailing a cold lead or somebody that you've never spoken to, your best bet to get them to be responsive to what you're pitching is to give them a one sheet or just a brief description of what you want to talk to them about. The goal in this phase is to land a phone call. Once you get that phone call, you've entered into the second gate. The second gate is when a cold lead starts to turn into a warm lead, and they're interested in what you have to say. Typically, you want to keep those conversations fairly brief, kind of like the one-pager that you sent them. Once you get off the phone, there's a tendency to want to send them everything. Open up the floodgates, show them what you got, pitch them everything you can do. This is a huge mistake. Here's why. So the problem is, after that first call, you really haven't learned a whole lot about what that person is after. Think about it this way. If you want to try to land a date with somebody, do you walk up to them and tell them your whole life story? Probably wouldn't get you that date. What you do is you start asking questions. This is just to be sure that you guys are in sync. Well, the same thing needs to happen in a client relationship. You need to go through steps, through gates, before you can move on to the next one. So after you've gotten off the call, instead of sending them everything you've got, follow up with a deck that's designed to gather more information. Usually I like to stick to the 10 to 15 page range for that deck, and maybe a little taste of the kind of things you offer. All of this should not be done as a novel. This should be done in as few words possible so that you elicit a conversation. Little tip, try not to send the deck over until just before your next phone call or in-person meeting. Being able to walk someone through your materials and through what you're proposing allows you the opportunity to once again listen, ask questions, and pivot where you might have gone wrong in your deck. Let's say your deck talks about your target audiences, but your client is really focused on just a little outside of that. By being a little vaguer in your deck and not giving so much information, you provide yourself an opportunity to ask those very specific questions. That way, in your next deck, you can respond to some of the feedback you've gotten and make sure that what you're offering aligns better with their goals. Sometimes this gating process might only be 3 gates. It might be a one sheet, then a 10 to 15 pager, and then your full-blown 20 to 30 to 40 page pitch. In some cases, this process might be 5, 6, 7 gates. The trick is if you're doing this process with multiple clients to have a certain number of slides that are already templated out, but to have the flexibility for other slides to be customized depending on who you're talking to and at what stage you're talking to them. And there's one more nuance to this. You have to understand your audience, and this comes with asking questions. Sometimes the person or people you're talking to really understand your business, so much in fact that your later pitches have to get even deeper and deeper into the weeds on what you're actually offering. But in other cases, you might have an investor or a client who's unfamiliar with what you offer and unfamiliar with your business. In that case, you're going to be providing slides that provide them with some education on what it is you do and what your business is. That's why if you can break your materials up into gates and stop yourself from providing too much information too soon before you've reached another gate, you'll reap the benefits by understanding more about the client and how to pitch them. And when you hand a potential investor or client a 50-page deck before they even know what you do at a high level, you've lost the sale. You've lost the investor, and more importantly, you've wasted a lot of time. So to summarize, pitch gating your materials should be a key component of your pitch strategy. It'll save you from losing potential clients and investors who simply didn't want to take the time to review all your materials or were turned off to something in your materials that could have been solved through a question and answer process. And gated pitch materials are what supports each stage of the sales process when those questions are most vital. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and may the pitch be with you.